week, some 3,000 people left. One of those families that had to leave was descended from a man named John Hendrix. Now, John was born in 1865, at Civil War time. He was born in Bear Creek Valley, which is where Y-12 is today. But in 1900, his youngest daughter died. Now, his wife accused him of being the reason she died because he corrected the child the day before. So she left him, took all the rest of the children and went to Arkansas and never came back. This really upset John, so he prayed to God, wanting to know why this was happening to him. Heard a loud voice in one of the prayers that said, if you'll sleep on the ground for 40 nights, you'll learn the future of this place. Must have been in the wintertime because, as the story goes, his hair froze to the ground. Now, let me interrupt my story about John for a minute to tell you that the New Hope Center that I brought you a care package from, and you're not going to have time to see today, is named for the little community that was there before the Manhattan Project, the New Hope community. There are other little communities that were here before the Manhattan Project as well. Robertsville is one of them. Now, they still have an annual reunion every year. And this last year, they had asked me to come and speak. So I was telling this story about John Hendrix and his sleeping on the ground. When I got to the part about his hair freezing to the ground, this little lady held her hand up out in the audience. The little lady's name's Taylor. I talked to her again the other night. And she told me, I said, yes, ma'am. She said, my grandmother put a quilt on John Hendrix when he was sleeping on the ground. Now, you keep that in mind and I'll finish my story. When John got through sleeping on the ground, he had tremendous stories to tell. He'd tell anybody that would listen. He'd tell them that there's going to be a huge factory built in Bear Creek Valley that'll help win the greatest war there'll ever be. Going to be a railroad spur run right down by his property line. Going to be a city on Black Oak Ridge. And the seat of power for all this is going to be between Pyatt's Place and Tadlock's Farm. Well, John died in 1915. When the Manhattan Project came in here, the first shovel full of dirt they dug was right between Pyatt's Place and Tadlock's Farm. That's where they put the administration building. That's where the federal office building is today. That railroad spur runs right down by his property line over here in the Hendrix Creek subdivision, named for John Hendrix. And that city on Black Oak Ridge is Oak Ridge. And the plant, or the Y-12 in Bear Creek Valley, is where the uranium was obtained for Little Boy that did help win World War II. Now, people thought John was crazy when he's telling all these stories, so they put him in a hospital for the insane. He didn't stay long. When he came out, he walked back to his house, and he sat down on his front porch, put 8 rocks out in front of him. When the deputy sheriff came and said, John, you're going to have to go back to that hospital, he said, no, I'm not going. Said, these rocks will protect me from you. And besides, God's going to destroy that hospital. Well, in a matter of weeks, the hospital was struck by lightning and burned to the ground. So they began to pay a little more attention to John than that.